Republicans say it's just more of the same from the White House. Our chief Washington correspondent Peter Cook is on the Hill right now with a member of the Senate Republican leadership, John Thune of South Dakota. Peter?
Thanks very much, Sarah. I'm joined by Senator Thune, the number 3 Republican in the U.S. Senate. Thanks for the time. And my first question for you, even going to watch the president's speech today?
I don't know that I'll have time, Peter, but I'll be anxious to hear what he has to say and if there's anything different there from the speeches we've heard before.
And we heard Speaker Boehner yesterday say, welcome to the conversation, Mr. President. I gather there's a whole host of skepticism here among Republicans about this speech, about the president's ability to refocus the country's attention on the economy.
Well, there is. I mean, I think the president has said on many occasions that he's going to pivot to jobs. This is like a re-pivot, pivot. And, you know, I said yesterday that even by the NBA standards, this would be traveling based on the number of times that he's pivoted to the economy. But we're skeptical that there's going to be anything new in this. We think that the American people haven't had the luxury of being able to pivot to jobs. They've been worried about jobs for the last 54 months where the unemployment rate has been above 7.5%. I mean, there are some things that the president could do that we think would help create jobs out there. He could start by approving the Keystone Pipeline. But unfortunately, I think this is going to be the same old, and kind of a rehash of what we heard before.
Are you worried all this is going to be a preview of the fall fight to come over the budget, over the debt ceiling? Can the president get the high ground here with regard to the debt ceiling fight? We gather he's going to put some lines in the sand again about he's not willing to negotiate with the Republicans over the debt ceiling.
I think that's probably true. My guess is that this is going to be designed to give him the rhetorical high ground at least. But I think for the most part, the American people are sort of on to this. And I think in terms of the things that the president's going to talk about, what we'd like to see him discuss is, of course, the impact that his signature law, the health care bill, is having on jobs and the economy. We think that's having a crushing impact out there. If you look at people's insurance premiums going up, number of people that are being forced into part-time jobs instead of full-time jobs, number of businesses who are saying that they're either cutting or not going to hire people. It's having a real impact on the economy. So I think the president is...
Can I ask you one more question about that? Because you've signed on to a letter with other Republican senators saying you're prepared to basically not have a continuing resolution, not continue to fund the government. If there's funding in there for implementing Obamacare, you're the number 3 Republican in the U.S. Senate. Is that the right position to be taking when this is the law of the land right now?
Well, we think that the one issue that unites all Republicans is opposition to Obamacare. We think it's horrible for the country. We think it's going to have disastrous impacts in the future on jobs, on deficits, and you're going to see a lot of, as you're already seeing, a big increase in a lot of people's premiums. So, you know, Republicans express that in different ways. Obviously, we think that the president has already come out and said that the employer mandate is going to be delayed. He himself is acknowledging the law is not working. If that's true, then why should we fund it? And I think that's the message.
We could see a shutdown over this?
I don't think, no, nobody's talking about a shutdown. There are people who are saying that we don't think we ought to be funding Obamacare when the president himself doesn't believe that it's working. But we also think that as we get into this debate in the fall over the debt limit and taxes and everything else, that the president's going to want a big tax increase. We're going to say no. We need to reform our spending, and particularly in the entitlement programs, and get the country on a more sustainable track that way, rather than having yet another tax increase. The president got that in his fiscal cliff.
Do you think there's a deal over the debt ceiling that can be had?
Well, if the president is willing to accept the idea that if we do anything with regard to tax reform, that it's got to be revenue neutral. If he would be willing to accept that premise, we could get something done on tax reform, and we might be able to get something done on entitlement reform. But if the president wants to have a deal on spending, it's got to be, you know, if he wants to turn off the sequester, it's got to be because we find savings elsewhere in the budget. Frankly, we believe that leads to the whole debate about entitlement reform. I'm not convinced, based on what I've heard the president say in meetings and in his, you know, public pronouncements, that he's willing to go there.
Student loan deal today?
I think so. I think we'll get that done. There's a consensus that's been formed, Republicans and Democrats. There are some Democrats who are outliers on this. There's been a division on their side, but we think the right thing to do is to try and get that loan rate at a reasonable level for all students, not just those who are getting subsidized loans. And I think the agreement that's been reached between Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and the White House will achieve that.
One area of bipartisan cooperation, Senator Thune, a pre-buttal to the president's speech today at Knox College in Illinois. Right now, we'll send it back to you guys in New York.
All right, I like that, a pre-buttal. Peter Cook, thanks very much. Senator Thune, thank you for your time this morning. The pivot on jobs, according to the Republicans. We've just got some breaking news here on Dell. The Dell committee